My name is Kirby Hansen, and you're watching Securely Connected. So let's for a minute talk about what happens when a child hears the word no. Or when they hear that they have to wrap up a preferred activity. So their brains react as if they're injured. Matter of fact, their brains react in a way as if the person telling them no is hurting them. So picture for a minute the elephant that we saw in the video last week. The mama elephant over here in the background, the baby elephant chasing the birds. And as the baby elephant comes around, obviously, it gets excited. The mom's highly attuned, is looking over towards the baby as it falls and steps that direction. The baby gets up and, embarrassed or whatever, who knows, scared, frightened, injured even, probably not, goes back for support from the mother. Now picture this. That baby loves that mother and that mother loves that baby. But when that baby hears the word no, it feels more like this. It feels like that mother's trying to throw that baby into the fire. And so just know that I'm going to have a few pictures on this episode, and no animals or children were injured or traumatized during the making of this video. Completely made up pictures that exist here. So please don't condemn me for using AI, but I didn't want to hurt any children or animals to make this video. Okay. But truthfully, this is what it feels like. This is why children get so upset. They don't consciously think about it. It's that survival part of the brain. So when you hear people say it's their nervous system that we need to regulate, we need to help children regulate their nervous system. What does that even mean? Well, it's the part of the brain that says, should I fly, should I fight, or should I freeze because danger has happened? And when a caregiver says, put your phone away or give me your tablet, it feels very much like, it seems, that the parent is hurting them on purpose. This is where this intensity and aggression comes from. Do all children experience this? No, not at all. It's the ones that are hitting you, that are spitting at you, that are biting you, that are kicking you. And if that's your child, I'm sorry, this is how it's been going. But their regulation system is what needs some work. And to do that, I've got a few steps that we can consider. Okay, so why is it? Why do some children struggle with this more? It could be trauma. Some people say, my child has not experienced trauma. It can't be that. Could be neurodivergence, ADHD, autism. Have they been assessed? If you're like, my child doesn't have autism, maybe they don't. But there are people who struggle with being able to have flexible thinking. It's an executive functioning problem. It's not willful disobedience. It's not necessarily because I'm trying to get my way. And if the parent handles things appropriately, it should turn out perfectly. Not always. It doesn't feel like that. Sometimes things kind of go off the rails a bit. But if we understand what's really going on, the parent, the caregiver, the adult in charge can remain level, can remain in charge, and can provide the right guidance for this dysregulated child. When the brain loses the source of dopamine suddenly, like a game ending, the nervous system experiences a real drop. Now that's important, because some people might say, well, things are different today than they were when I was a kid. Well, there's a lot of things different, and I can make another whole video about that, and maybe I will. But at the same time, the number of screens and the time that children spend on screens, and screens being introduced at such a young age, it is a reality of what's happening for many, many people. And dopamine is an actual chemical that is central to the reward system of our brain, and it keeps bringing us back for more. Dopamine is what keeps bringing someone back to the slot machine because they just know next time it really might happen if they get the jackpot. Dopamine is what keeps a substance user using the substances that they maybe shouldn't, because it keeps feeding that I just want more. I just need a little more. And most people really actually struggle with this. It's what makes me want to eat more chocolate cake. It's what causes me stress when I have to end a show that I really enjoy because the credits are now rolling up and I have to wait a week before they show the next episode. And it's like, I just want to see the next episode right now. It's because my brain wants to be rewarded with this dopamine hit. When I'm playing video games, dopamine is just flowing so well and I'm feeling great and I just want to keep playing. I want to move to the next level. I want to get to the next point. I want to earn the next whatever it is. And sometimes it's the dopamine that gets me to get my credit card out and actually buy some Robux, or I don't buy Robux, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like buy these coins that I can use to like get more great things that'll make the game go better. And it's like, what did I just buy? How did I just put money into the dopamine is what caused me to just need to do that. When we take that game away from a kid, the dopamine drop just goes whoom, and that hurts. It feels painful. And so the youth's brain, the child's brain, isn't thinking logically right now, especially if they have ADHD, which a lot of the kids we've been talking about do. But the brain says, did my safe person just hurt me? Now, their thinking brain, their cortex that hasn't quite yet developed, or if they were able to stop and think before they acted, that part of the brain knows that's not true. But the survival brain that felt that pang of dopamine drop when I had to give my tablet to my mom, that part felt pain and it reacted quick, impulsively. All right. Imagine the baby elephant suddenly thinking that its mother pushed it towards danger. Okay. So that is the level of alarm that many of our kids feel when they hear the word no. It's not necessarily about not getting their way. It's about, you just hurt me. So the question is now, what is it we do about it? So we've got this child who melts down. We have this child who becomes aggressive, hits, kicks, breaks things, really becomes overwhelmed. Their sensory system is overwhelmed. Their nervous system is overwhelmed. And we hear all of this, why they might be that way. But are we hearing what it is we do next about it? Well, this is where it gets tricky because it doesn't always work like you'd hope it would. And sometimes things take a while for it to really work well, and for our children to trust us, and to get to the point where regulation is going to happen. And sometimes many things need to change and take place in order for things to really get better. But this system here that I've designed, I feel could really be helpful to many families. And I have a name for this, and I call it the Secured Connections Regulation Map. So let me explain it to you here briefly. And if you have any suggestions for me about how to improve it, or things you are wondering about it, please put those in the comments. I'll read them and get back to you. And I would appreciate any feedback you might have. All right. So when raising children, the idea isn't to avoid triggers, not to avoid making them mad. We can't just tiptoe around them. And so we have to have a plan of what to do and where to go on this map. Children want to feel safe. They want their caregivers to keep them safe. They want to trust that you will do what you need to do to set limits, that they're going to be living in this safe environment. And sometimes kids test us to see if we're actually keeping up with that. Sometimes kids test us more than they need to, and that the reason they keep testing us to see if we'll keep them safe is really part of the mental health part that we need to be addressing in therapy and so forth, actually. And so the idea isn't to avoid triggers. The idea is to know where we are on the Secured Connections map so that we know what to do next. All right. So briefly, I'll just tell you, we set up these cards. I have all the kids make cards for their different parts, their helper parts, their protective parts, their exile parts, their firefighter parts, and coming up with with different names for the parts has been kind of fun, and helping kids figure out what it is they need to regulate has been kind of neat. So, but I want to start off by explaining this regulation map, all right? And it kind of fits that parts of who I am and what part I am and what part I'm talking about right now is the regulated child part, okay? So the regulated child part is the kid that we're raising, that we're content with how they go through their day and so forth. The next part is going to be about the triggering moments, and I have a card for that. Then there's a part called the exit seeker and the lightning strike. We'll talk about those for a little bit. The final card is called the repair crew. Okay, so let's go back to the regulated child. The regulated child is able to think clearly. The regulated child has flexible responses. The regulated child enjoys humor for the most part and likes to feel smart. They enjoy being cooperative, compassionate, creative, all of those things. This part shows up when expectations are reasonable, predictable, when they feel safe, when connection feels strong, when transitions are supported, when the nervous system feels safe, when the nervous system is regulated, and their energy level matches their demands. This regulated child protects learning, relationships, confidence, independence, and what this part needs, the regulated child needs structure, connection, encouragement, predictable transitions, recognition of their effort. You're doing a very good job, so proud of you, buddy. Things like this. They also need to be well hydrated, being well rested, and so forth. So the thinking brain is in charge with the regulated child. All right. Now, what happens? Kids get triggered. Sometimes we trigger them. And signature moments for the triggers are on this card. And they may be different for your child. And we can personalize these cards for your child that specifically state what things trigger them. Turning off the video games, turning in your phone, leaving YouTube, ending a preferred activity, bedtime routines, starting homework, being told not today, or we'll see, or maybe later. All right. So this part, shows up when there's sudden transitions. Dopamine stops quickly, and preferred activities end, and they feel rushed. So what does this part need? It needs warnings. It needs visual countdowns. It needs predictable routines. It needs a calm voice from the caregiver, the adults around. And it needs empathy and connection before instruction. Now, two more things happen. Two different things, I guess, can happen when there's a trigger. You can either get the exit seeker, or you might get the lightning strike. Okay? So the exit seeker, let's talk about the exit seeker really quick. The exit seeker shows up, what you'll notice, what their signature moves are negotiating instantly. I need 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes, please. I have to end this game. I need to finish this game. But so-and-so is their parents let them stay on. Why can't you let me stay on? You're so unfair. I hate you, And so negotiating begins, as does delaying, and so isn't the distractions. The distractions are those things like, well, you never said that she needed to turn her phone in. Well, last week you let him stay up until, all those kinds of things are distractions. And it's those strategies that the child uses without even thinking them through. And if you think the child has these all planned out and organized in some kind of file that they can retrieve in those moments, it's not really true. Those things just flood them in these heated, stressful moments, okay? And these things, this exit seeker shows up when transitions appear suddenly and when the dopamine level is suddenly dropped or threatened to be dropped. And dopamine is the neurochemical in our brain that feels good. It's the chemical in our brain. The dopamine system is what gets triggered when we go to the casino and pull the slot machine, and it keeps you wanting to go back to the blackjack table because you might actually blah, blah, blah. It's the thing that keeps people continually using substances that aren't healthy because they just make you want to come back for more. And video games, and the way that the video game creators set them up. You just want to make it to the next level. You want to earn the next thing. You want to get the next whatever it is. You want to show up on time to participate in this certain kind of activity. The video game creators understand the dopamine system very, very, very well. YouTube does it too. It puts things along the side that says, oh, I bet you're going to want to watch this. And so doesn't social media. Social media with a little like button. How many likes did your comment get or whatever? And this draws people to coming back and looking to see if they got more likes or more views or more subscriptions or whatever it is. We all fall victim to this, myself included. How many subscriptions do I have on my channel so far? And did you like and subscribe? Please do. Okay. And so what this part protects is it protects emotional comfort. It might be saying, oh my gosh, I have to put the game away. And I know every day when I put the game away, I have this drop in dopamine and it feels bad. I need to protect that. I need to negotiate. I need to keep this game going longer. And it also needs predictability and it needs control. Control feels safe. And that we can have another whole video about why control feels safe for kids, but it does. And nervous system stability. Kids want to stay on the game because the games are predictable and they do have a rhythmic pattern to them. And there are things that are very regulating, and kids like co-regulate with their video games. And it's one of the things about this day and age that's different than the past. So what does the exit seeker need? The exit seeker needs warnings before transitions. It needs calm repetition of expectations. It needs empathy without the negotiating drift. When the child starts to negotiate and if they say, I need 10 more minutes, you might actually be like, we've been working on the compromise. 10 more minutes sounds reasonable. Okay, you have 10 more minutes. I'm setting the timer. That could be a reasonable thing to do, but you can't do that for hours, right? The negotiating drift also can be when the child is distracting. I think there's a distraction drift that happens, and you start to feed into, this isn't about your brother. This is about you. Not going on saying, well, he got A's in all his classes, and if you would have, all of a sudden now we're talking about their grades rather than talking about just putting the game away. We want to keep that drift from happening and stay focused. Remembering to stay focused can be one of the hardest things to do as parents while we're trying to intervene with our children's behaviors. So visual countdowns are helpful. Steady adult confidence. All right. This is the brain trying to solve problems without losing safety. The brain is saying there's one more stage after this that I don't want to go there. We don't want the next thing to happen because the next thing is the lightning strike. The lightning strike is next. The lightning strike is aggressive. It is the yelling, throwing, hitting, spitting, kicking, crying, refusing completely, storming away, slamming doors, kicking doors, busting through the drywall. It is trying to attain safety, but it's not doing it in a very good way. It's really focused on emotional survival, attachment security, and nervous system stability. And it's all counterintuitive. It's not really doing what it needs to do. This part, the lightning strike, isn't thinking before it acts at all. It's thinking about surviving. It's thinking about putting out the fire. It is just needing to get the person feeling safe again because it truly feels like the mama elephant is dangling the baby elephant over the sea of sharks. All right? It feels like that. Now, the thinking brain knows that's not true, but the emotional brain in that moment is feeling like the caregiver, the parent, the loved one who's supposed to be protecting them is actually hurting them. That's how it feels. How dare you hurt me? I will get you back worse. And the brain senses this sudden loss. Expectations feel unfair. The nervous system is totally hotwired and offline and not doing well. And the connection feels absolutely threatened. And so the thinking brain has gone offline. And the brain, the body, the child is completely being run out of this lower limbic system that is only thinking about survival and living for another day. What does that part of the brain need? It needs barely any words from the adult caregivers. Pretty much don't say anything. This is where regulation needs to happen before anything else can happen. So here's what my suggestion is. Just breathe. Number one, when you're a caregiver and your child is in this lightning mode, it's a little bit dysregulating for us too. So I need all the oxygen in my brain cells I can get as the caregiver. So I'm not even faking it or doing it just for show. I'm actually just breathing, and my child can hear me breathing, and if the connection is going to be coming back soon, they're going to actually begin to co-regulate with us and breathe with us. And you want to resist every urge on the planet to lecture anybody right now, and don't set any limits. Don't say, oh, are we going to do this again? Or don't say, is this how we always act when this happens? Because that's just going to further this lightning strike. It's just going to make the storm even bigger and worse. It's just not helpful at that time. So your calm presence is what's needed. Your physical presence and safety is what's needed. They need to reconnect with you. They need reassurance that you're going to reconnect with them, and they need to co-regulate. So what do they need? A calm adult who's in charge, who can regulate themselves, and that is easier said than done. Absolutely. This is why parents are like superhuman sometimes. Okay, and when things start to settle down, we need to start planning for getting this repair crew back online. The repair crew. This is different for every child, family, and situation. And so when you're creating this secured connections regulation map, it could be each family could be very different. So what this is about reconnecting. It's about restoring dignity. It's about rebuilding trust and reassuring safety. All right, and it shows up when the body calms down, when the voice softens, when eye contact returns, when the child comes back to the caregiver. When the child comes back to the caregiver, if they've gone out and have blown over here, and you see that they're in the other room and they're kind of on the floor and they're just sitting quietly and they're not hurting anything or anyone and they're not doing anything, just leave them there. And then don't go anywhere. Just stay nearby. Like don't get in the car and leave. And then they're gonna come find you again because they are your baby elephant. All right, so they're gonna come find you again, and when they do, you need to be ready for their return, like on the circle of security, ready for their return, where you're gonna delight in them, you're going to comfort them, you're gonna help them organize their feelings, and you're not gonna overwhelm them. You're gonna protect the attachment security, and you're gonna ensure that they can regain their confidence even though they made a mistake. And it was this part that got in the way, the lightning part got in the way, not them. We're not shaming them, but their lightning strike part got in the way. And then we can start to rebuild that connection. All right, we're not going to say, oh really, are we going to do this again? We're not doing this again tomorrow. Because if the child is coming back to you and they're ready to begin the repair crew, and you say something about, are we really going to do this again? You just brought the storm back. And so fight the urge to bring the storm back. The repair crew can be the caregiver who's in charge that moment. But everybody who provides care for this child, whether it's a teacher or, if there's, multiple parents or even multiple households involved, there really needs to be as much consistency as possible. If this child stays at grandma's or goes to a place for childcare, it's really great if everyone who deals with behaviors can be somewhat on the same-ish page and use a lot of the same terminology. So there's a few pieces to this that I'll just quickly go through, and that's just helping everyone understand what to do with this child, about not talking when they're, escalated and so forth. But there's this other part of the repair crew that might be important. So when a storm comes, it can do damage. And after the storm passes and the sun comes back out again, sometimes we can still see remnants of the damage. And so we got to go out and pick up the sticks. We got to get things put away. We need to reorganize things and kind of clean up so it can look nice again. And it may be that that it takes extra people involved. So if there are two parents, then they both need to be on board. And maybe rather than playing good cop, bad cop, you're actually playing good cop, good cop. The other one can come in and say, I'm really proud of the way that you got yourself back together again. Don't be afraid that this is going to trigger them. If it does, well, then we have another little thing we'll have to do or something like that. But it really lets the child know that the adults are in charge and they're on the same page. And when a big event happens and we are the caregiver, we often don't want to go to our friends and tell them about it, because why not? It's a little bit embarrassing. And our children don't want us talking to anyone else about it either. They want us to keep it a secret. And sometimes we want to keep it a secret too. But when we keep children's behaviors secrets between me and my child, that isn't necessarily healthy. And it isn't actually what the child wants, because it gives them a little more control than they're comfortable having. All right. And it doesn't encourage accountability really. So this is very cautious. I'm not saying go collect together this whole team of people and then have them call your child and say, I'm glad to hear you're back on track again, because that can be very shaming. It could be very triggering and so forth. This is the part where we need to tread lightly and have a nice, decent, very effective plan put in place. But sometimes it could be involving another person or other people. There's two reasons why this is important. One is to hold the child accountable and help them see that they have a support system outside of just their immediate caregiver, but it also helps prevent immediate caregiver isolation. When you're the parent of a child who has really explosive behaviors that don't make sense to a lot of people, it can be one of the most lonely experiences ever. Parents who are raising children with big behaviors feel so isolated sometimes. And this is an opportunity for them to educate somebody who's in their close circle to be my support system with raising my child. It takes a village to raise a child, right? We could go to that metaphor. And so look at shared caregivers. Maybe it's a sibling of the parent or even an older sibling of the child. Perhaps it could be a teacher or a coach or a mentor, but it could be a grandparent, or it could be the child's therapist or be his worker, or who knows. But pull somebody in that can help be part of the crew, the repair crew, and they will then later check in with the child, either minutes or hours after the incident, or the next day, or the next time they go in for the session. So if it's the therapist, make sure that as the parent you email the therapist about how it went and if that repair went through, so the therapist can know to kind of visit it. You don't want to keep it a secret from the therapist, because all of a sudden now the parent and the child have this secret they're keeping together, and we don't really want that. And so if you have questions about how to set up the repair team, talk to your therapist, talk to me, ask questions. All right. So if your child reacts strongly when they hear no, or limits are set, that doesn't necessarily mean they're spoiled. It might mean they have an overactive nervous system, and there are things we can do about it. It's not just an excuse. This means that we, need to understand the why behind the behaviors and what it is that we can put in place to help calm things down and move forward. It's creating the secured connections regulation map. All right. So stay connected, stay curious, like and subscribe, and come back for more videos. And always remember, connection before correction. All right. Have a great rest of your day, afternoon, week, or evening. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.